Welcome to the fifth part of the retelling of the manhwa, the Night King who returned with a god. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I need your support to release videos more often. Already on the ground, all the soldiers lined up, waiting for the command from their guildmaster. Congratulations everyone, on completing a simple task. He said, watching your battle, I've noticed a number of problems. The most important one is your bodies. That's why Leon decided to start with physical training. And he is going to train his soldiers based on the training manual of his standing army. It was created by the Grail Knight, Sir Gratas, Slayer of Giants. And he once said, a man will become stronger if he is given a good beating. From this depth of thought, the soldiers were shocked. Crush and beat the soldiers' bodies and then heal them, quoted Sir Gratas Leon. Not only will their muscles become stronger, but their eyesight will also become better, in an effort to avoid more blows. The hunters cringed even more at such a concept. Now, commanded the protagonist, beat each other up. Fight until every muscle in your body is torn and your fists turn to mush. And it will be even better if your bones are sure to be broken, too. The soldiers began to protest vigorously at first, for if this was the case, their bodies simply wouldn't be able to withstand it. Leon was surprised by their objections, and immediately took out his grail. Fortunately, the person in front of you is the protector of the Holy Grail. With these words, he activated his power, and at the same moment, all the wounds on the soldiers' bodies were miraculously healed. So now they were to beat each other for the next 5 hours, and whoever remained on their feet afterwards would be beaten by the king personally. Now Sir Spinner was in charge, and to encourage the hunters to fight, he thrust his beam between them, hinting that if they didn't start, this shot wouldn't be the last. Thus began their first training session. Now the daily life of the hunters who wished to join the ranks of the Knights of Leon looked like this. 9 a.m. Training of the standing army on Gratas. Project, Steel Skin. 12 o'clock lunch. Water, with salt and sugar. According to the training manual, soldiers should only eat what will keep them from dying. Normal food will be available only at the end of training. 1300 tactics training. The task of the soldiers was to split into 5 groups, and try to stop Leon flying against them on his horse. 9 p.m. sleep. All this hellish training the hunters were able to endure thanks to the care of Hari, who carried them small nightly snacks, in the form of roasted vegetables. The Sun practices sword strokes in full knightly armor and with shield in hand. Because of all the heaviness, he decides to practice more stabbing blows. Suddenly, he hears His Majesty's voice, wrong. Correct your stance, and redo the stabbing strike. He tries again, but again the king is dissatisfied with his movements. You have a habit of lowering your shield during a strike, but you must also protect your comrade's right shoulder with it. A shield out of place creates a gap, a vulnerable spot for the enemy. And Leon's tactics include soldiers with shields to stop enemies while the knights attack them. But after all, our opponents are monsters. I'm not sure they can be defeated that way, hesitates Dissen. To which he hears a threatening reply from the king. You dare to teach me how to fight against monsters from other worlds? The embarrassed Dissen apologizes, and the king calmly tells him that his world was full of monsters, but the ones here are no match for the ones he had to fight. Giants 20 meters tall, trolls with instant regeneration, snakes with multiple heads, spiders with dozens of goblins on their backs. And dragons, with a single flap of their wings, destroying mountains. You have to know different ways of hunting to fight all these monsters, and you also need to be prepared for any unforeseen situation. And that's something you can only master in real combat. And Leon Dragonia has plenty of that experience. That's why he teaches soldiers to be well-rounded, to increase their chances of survival. But, the Sun clenched his fist, I want more. We understand from him that he dreams of becoming a true knight, except it's impossible for a commoner like him. Leon sighs with a smile, not only aristocrats can become a knight. A man who willingly overcomes hardships for a good cause, protects people, and boldly follows the covenants of the gods. Who has sworn an oath of loyalty to gods and men. Anyone who has made a promise before God can become a knight. If there is courage and bravery to take that path, that is enough to gain my respect, Leon finished with a smile. Dasun now realizes that he was biased towards the protagonist. In the United States, in the branch of the Magic Tower, its head, Reynold Sherman, again hears from the stone the voice of his lord. To begin with, he demands that the magician cast a displacement spell on the stone to move it into space in case of danger. To this, Reynold asks in amazement, "Isn't the stone needed for his lord to come to Earth?" "Are you out of your mind?" cries the crystal. "I will not set foot on the land where that monster resides." The stone then reasons that now is the best time to destroy the protagonist while he has not yet gathered his army. "You just have to come up with a good plan. Make sure you enter the same gate as him," commands the stone, and mentally adds to Leon's address, "Please die already." On the day of the graduation ceremony of the Permanent Guild Pantheon, Leon decided to go to the Yellow Gate again with his soldiers. Han Hari and Sir Yappy are not going on the trek, and Kim, the manager of the Korean organization, jokes that all the work will now be on him. "Soldiers, you've proven yourselves by going through a training course 4 weeks long. Now it's time to show your worth. Normally these gates don't get this much attention, but once you're inside, you'll know what it means to be a soldier of the king with a lion's heart. You will enter them and sweep them completely clean. Inside the gates you will encounter the deity you will serve." Leon continues to instruct, "Pantheon, move out." So, 49 D-rank hunters, one representative of the Hunters Association and Leon Dragonia Lenhart, entered the gate. But Sir Yappy suddenly chimed in that the squad consisted of 51 men, and 52 had entered the portal. Someone invisible and dangerous had gotten in there with everyone else. "Emergency intervention," said the robot, and flew into the gateway without looking at the order. Hari tries to follow it, but it crashes into it like a wall with a crash. Puzzled, the remaining hunters on the ground note that the mana readings in the gate are rapidly changing. They gradually turn from yellow to red. Inside the gate, our hunters are immediately met with hordes of monsters attacking the castle from all sides. The soldiers tense up at the sight of the demons, but the king commands them to raise their shields and form up. Surprised manager Kim is amazed to see yesterday's lone weaklings obediently forming up like seasoned warriors. And despite the fact that it is a demonic gate, they do not retreat, but fearlessly go on the attack at the command of their king. The monsters are approaching, but the soldiers flawlessly block the attack by sheer willpower alone, and repel all attacks with a single blow. "One step forward," Leon shouts, "push back the enemy and attack back. Don't give them even a chance to attack. Hit the vulnerable points." So the soldiers successfully continue forward, but a demonic troll comes out to meet them. The soldiers seriously start to worry before fighting him, since its strike is equal in power to the attack of a hunter of rank A. The troll swings its club with all its might, but its gift is easily blocked by the captain of the third squad, Dasun. "This is nothing compared to His Majesty's powerful strike," he says confidently. At that moment, Sir Yappy joins the attack on the troll. "Good block," praises Dasun by Leon, rushing towards the troll on his horse. One swing of his divine sword and nothing remains of the monster. The demons, seeing that the troll is dead, shake with fear and flee. The soldiers of this kingdom are jubilant that the monsters are retreating, and thank Leon and his soldiers for their help. Now the hunters receive a new notice: the kingdom of Feather has been attacked by demons. Protect them from the invasion of the Demon King. Time remaining is 1 week. The soldiers are perplexed. Isn't this gate yellow? What Demon King could we be talking about? Meanwhile, one of the hunters reports to the king that the gate they entered through is gone. An unforeseen occurrence, invasion of the unknown. The robot beeps. Now the protagonist realizes why the spinner psycho is also here. Leon asks someone to explain the reason for the disappearance of the portal. It's a changing gate, explains Dasun, a phenomenon where the complexity of the gate increases dramatically, and it's impossible to get out of it without completely mopping it up. Leon realizes that none of this can be a mere coincidence, and commands the soldiers to continue the mission. Dasun is worried about the upcoming encounter with the Demon King, but Leon reassures him that he has already destroyed 2 Demon Kings and more than 30 great demons single-handedly. After these words, the team's morale rises. But in reality, Leon realizes that right now he can't guarantee victory over the Demon King, but the knight needs to be decisive and reliable regardless of the situation. The soldiers just need to rely on their faith in themselves and their king. Meanwhile, the demon in the magic stone chuckles, seeing that Leon is much weaker than before. To which Reynold Sherman again offers to prepare a portal for the coming of his lord to Earth, but again he hears disgruntled exclamations in response. There is no need for me to interfere. There is a creature out there that the succubus demons have been working on for 100 years. One day it will awaken as a demon king and it can kill him. The kingdom of Sparrow, a peaceful kingdom that prides itself on its thousands of years of history, was now facing an extremely dangerous situation. Every day, hundreds of demons attacked the city in such a way that only the castle survived in the end. That's the plot, Dasun said as he retold the history of this dungeon. As we know, dungeons' breakthrough occurs if the monsters within them are neglected. But if a time limit appears, the gate is closed until the conditions of the quest are met. Based on this, Leon decides to complete the task and kill the Demon King. And his soldiers rejoice at their new promotion. Left alone, he briefly contacts the Pantheon. With their goddess, they exchange thoughts regarding the foreign energy inside the gate. Afterward, she relays to him that Plu, another deity of the Pantheon, wants to explore this world, and now they need the energy so the goddess can descend to Earth. After a while, Leon, Dasun, the manager of Kim's association and the manager of the mining team, Kim Do-han, arrive at the castle by carriage and are met by the butler to escort them to the queen. On the way to the reception hall, the butler tells us a little about the castle, and from him we learn that throughout time only women have ruled here. They enter the hall. At the far end of it sits the queen, and around her are a bunch of servants and servants. One of them is the royal chancellor, Duke Archeum, who rewards Leon with knight status for helping to defend the castle. Before doing so, I'd like to greet the queen, the protagonist says resolutely, and walks past the chancellor. But his path is blocked by Her Majesty's personal knight, and Chancellor Archeum, who continues to shout indignantly at Leon for his insolence. The protagonist begins to get seriously angry at what's happening. Queen. I am the king of Lenhart, the king with a lion's heart, Leon Dragonia Lenhart. And I will do exactly what I must, even if it seems rude to you. What are you babbling about? The chancellor doesn't relent, pointing his finger at the protagonist, Captain. Get that man out of here. At that moment Leon takes his head with both hands, and in one swift movement wrings his neck. His companions are horrified. The royal knights immediately draw their swords. And while everyone is confused, Leon turns to the chancellor who has fallen to the floor. How stupid. How much longer are you going to hide your true face? Did you think you could escape the gaze of the lion-hearted king? Show yourself, filthy demon. And after his words, the dead chancellor came to life. Beneath the shell of a man lurked a monster. And not only the chancellor, many of the servants also changed their appearance to demonic. Seeing so many monsters, the knights of the castle panic, but Leon commands them to gather and fight as one. After defeating the monsters, Leon heads to the queen, but his path is again blocked by the same gray-haired knight. But the protagonist knocks the sword out of his hands with a snap of his fingers. I am the king, and I have the right to ask questions and pass judgment, and the same goes for the queen. Know your place, the queen can't pass judgment right now. And besides, with the chancellor dead, I have full authority, the knight answered him. They glance over, and Leon informs the one that the palace is overflowing with distorted energy. We need to hurry up and destroy them. What do you want? Says the knight in surrender. Command over all troops and the authority to eradicate all evil, I will take over. Since you are powerless, replied Leon. After a while, all the citizens of the castle were gathered in the central royal square. Leon Dragonia introduced himself to them, and told them that he now had full power, and demons had long ago crept in among them, living under the guise of humans. This was most likely how they planned to start a revolution in parallel with infiltrating the palace. But there's no need to worry. I have a way to distinguish the normal people from the poisoned ones, said Leon, taking two of the crowd by the scruff of the neck. From now on, those who have no evil in them and those who are not godless must enter this bonfire to prove their innocence to everyone. And for good measure, he threw those two unfortunates into the fire. The townspeople were horrified, thinking that Leon was about to kill them all. A scream is heard from the flames, but then everyone sees how the girl of the couple is unharmed. And the one whose scream was no longer coming from the man that was thrown into the fire, but from the monster. Behold, this holy flame burns only those with evil in them. Give thanks to Pitos, god of war and fire. Shout his name as you pass through the flames, Leon said majestically. But people still had doubts, so the protagonist had to bark at them, after which everyone willingly ran into the fire. And now only the demons, who no longer hid their true faces, remained in front of him. Your stench can be heard everywhere, I will punish you. I'll put your souls to rest. In response to him, the monsters only laughed at first, because it was just a human in front of them. But after that reaction, Leon lost his temper and started yelling at them so violently that even their ears began to hurt. You vile demons. You dare to pretend to be human and gather together. You will die in agony, screaming in pain. Somewhere in the same world, Reynald Sherman, along with a magic crystal, is remotely monitoring the happenings in the castle. Looks like the infiltration plan failed. The mage utters aloud as he watches Leon slay the remaining demons in the courtyard in a rage. After all the monsters in the city were destroyed, Leon tied one of them to a stick, and put it on display for the townspeople to see. Citizens of the Kingdom of Feather, there is nothing more to fear. As long as I live, these things cannot harm you. Leon said solemnly, evil creatures sow confusion in your minds. They are the causes of your hunger, illnesses, and discord within your family. They are the reason you can't find love, and losing money is also their fault. At these words, the formerly gloating demon began to resent him, but in response, Leon ripped off his horn with his fingers to shut him up. Meanwhile, the people began to get into the thoughts of what the protagonist had said. What, my mother got sick because of the demons. It's their fault my Marita rejected me. Those bastards caused me to lose all my money in cards yesterday. The demon continued to resent the sins attributed to him, but was slapped on the horns again. The townspeople who try to live righteous lives, Leon continued, demons are creatures that bring misfortune into your lives. Everything bad is their fault, and because of them you have no true faith. He picked up a burning stick, but don't be afraid. Especially for you, the god of war and fire has created this sacred flame. Whereupon, he summoned a boy from the crowd, and told him to punish the demon with this fire. The red-haired boy resolutely approached the demon. At this moment he was only thinking that he was the reason why his father died. The monster tried to threaten him, only to be slapped in the cheek again by the protagonist. My father's killer, screamed the boy, setting the demon on fire with holy fire. Meanwhile, the demon of pleasure and debauchery, Baltars, sits in custody in a prison cell. He is being watched closely by the spinner Psycho. He walks up close to the cell and beeps, provide information. Ha, you think I'd listen to some Iron Man like you? The demon grinned. Pressioner number 14 is not cooperating, the robot concluded. Immediately a group of knights approached the cell, to which the demon started squealing that they could kill him, because then he would come back and take revenge on all of them. But the knights had something more sophisticated in mind. They brought with them in a basin a liquid that contained 15% of holy water. A robot jumped up to the container with the words, "Water. It'll get us answers." And using his fishing line, he stuck the demon's head under the water. After a while, his burnt face was pulled out of the water, but the knights heard nothing but threats and swearing. Non-cooperation, the robot concluded, and shoved the demon back into the water. For a long time Baltars yelled, howled, begged for help from the knights, said he knew nothing. But in the end, prisoner number 14, data of 30,000 characters recorded, said the robot, 9,000 characters missing from 39,000 received from communication with prisoner number 13. What does that mean? The demon didn't understand. More information can be obtained. He's definitely nuts, squealed the demon. How can I know what those morons told me and what they didn't? The need to keep the hostage alive is in question. Since there is no way to provide relevant information, the robot concluded. After these words, the demon suddenly became cooperative. In the end, Spinner Psycho was able to provide an extremely detailed report to his king. The content of all the people interviewed matched by 89%, which means that this is the truth. Suddenly, Leon didn't feel good. He threw his wine glass on the floor and clutched his chest. Sir Spinner became agitated, but this is what the king's tempestuous anger and his desire to punish all the monsters in this world looks like. And the two of them decide to rush out at a moment's notice to crush the enemies outside the castle. Along with his master in stone, Reynold Sherman meets the demon of debauchery and pleasure, Androgyne. This time in the orb we can see the entity that is inside. It is a goblin, and the only survivor from the world where Leon fought and lived. A voice from the stone offers to make a deal, promising a good reward for attacking Leon Dragonia. In addition, we learn that Androgynous has been running an errand from the most prominent demon in this castle for a long time. And it concerns the queen and her castle. After communicating with the demon, they are transported to the forest, not far from the castle, and immediately meet one of the dead reapers that inhabit the area. The goblin from the crystal commands Reynold to hide, and for good reason. Just then, Sir Spinner and Leon set out to clear the area outside the Castle of Demons, and now they find themselves dangerously close to each other. Spinner Psycho destroys this dead reaper, and Leon comes into the clearing behind him. It looks like everyone has been killed, but the last of them was looking at someone. At this point, Reynold Sherman is covered in invisibility, but Leon manages to sense the presence of something wrong. He gets close to the shaking Reynold and the crystal, the tension builds, but at the last moment, the Sire Spinner notices the new activity and the knights move away. In his chambers, King Lenhart is washing the dirt and sweat from his torso after the battles as the queen herself quietly enters his room. "Greetings, knight," the queen says sweetly. As she throws on her shirt, the protagonist notices that she reeks of lechery for no reason. "My name is Beatrice Alaguire Sparrow. I am the monarch of this kingdom," she introduces herself. In response, Leon does the same. During the conversation, the queen admits that she is being followed by the general with his knights. But this news causes the protagonist only doubts. The general is a loyal and faithful servant. The queen asks Leon to kill the general, and in return she is ready to give him her entire kingdom. Toward the end, she whispers in his ear that the general is hiding something in the castle cellars. Their conversation is interrupted by the general himself, and when he enters the room, Leon is already there alone. He tells the general that he has seen Beatrice, and whether he is interested in how much their queen wanders at night. He replies dryly that she is always like that. All this seems highly suspicious to Leon, and he asks the main question: "Did the queens tell you that you keep her locked up?" That in no way concerns the newcomers, replies the general stiffly, and together with the guards removes from the chambers of the protagonist. Esser Spinner Leon instructs him to investigate the basement of the castle, for it is there that the clue to what is going on is most likely to be found. The next day begins again with monsters attacking the castle. The androgynous demon has promised 100 slaves to the first to climb the castle wall, so the jubilant demons rush to fight. But the very first of them immediately meet face to face with the divine spear. There is a powerful explosion, and some of the demons are destroyed at the first blow. Their souls rise from their bodies to return and become demons again, but Leon instantly draws them into his goblet, denying them that opportunity. He then draws his sword and uses it to slay the remnants of the incoming demons. After defeating a troop of lust demons, they are all led bound to the prison. Suddenly, Goodison hears one of them stumble. He goes to supervise this moment, but instead of the demon, a beautiful thrusting woman looks at him. "Mr. Hunter, please untie me. If you help, I'll repay some kindness too," she says seductively. Dison is about to give in to her as the temptation resistance buff triggers and he sees the ugly demon in front of him again. "Fucking take it," chastises the guy. Both are surprised. The demon can't believe a normal mortal could escape its charms. And Dison in that he almost fell for it just like that. The silence is broken by Leon, who has ridden in on horseback to find out what the commotion in the formation is about. "You dare try to seduce my soldier with that ugly body?" he yells furiously. "I beg your pardon," squeaks the demon pitifully. "Denied," shouts the protagonist, spelling the monster in the face with his heel. With victory they return to the castle, and immediately, without ceremony, Leon and his knights descend into the cellar. The guards and the heavy oak door are no obstacle to him. They descend to the bottom, and there, amidst the gloom, they see a bed covered with a veil. Leon approaches the bed with a swift step and throws aside the translucent cloth. Before him on the bed lay the queen herself. The knights instantly succumb to her spell of seduction. Not even the buffs can keep them from lust. Seeing this, Leon resorts to good old physical strength, and simply knocks his knights out temporarily. Only Dison was able to throw off the obsession on his own, by wounding himself with a knife. Then the protagonist took out a divine goblet, and gave the guy a breath of his powers to heal the wound and completely cast off the spell. At that moment, the general appears in the basement with his warriors. He's surprised that the queen couldn't bewitch them, but Leon is no fool either, and remarks aloud that they too have not succumbed to the temptation. "We're used to her charms by now," says the general. "Nonsense," argues the protagonist, "the queen's energy is close to a curse, it's impossible to get used to. Besides, I've encountered this kind of energy before. The mistress of pleasure." Leon then takes out the grail again, and uses it to summon the goddess of death and dreams. They greet each other, and the goddess immediately notices that the reason for the mess here is the demons of lust. Standing up in front of the royal guards, she majestically pronounced, "Show your true self." In the light of her lantern, the illusion collapses, and instead of living people, death knights stand before them. "Don't touch the queen, keep the peace, protect the seal." From all sides, the death knights began to attack our heroes. Then Leon draws his sword to finally salute the queen. To thwart him, the general attacks the protagonist, but to no avail. He easily blocks the blow, but along with the general, he is attacked by other death knights. Leon bounces back from the blow with the words, "The fight is one-on-one." "Were you going to betray the honor of a knight?" "I betrayed honor a long time ago," replies the general to him. Now Leon fights all of the queen's knights alone. With distorted honor and pride, it is impossible to defend anything. Shouts the protagonist, thrusting his sword into the ground, spreading a divine attack through it. Now only the general was left on the battlefield. "Wake up from your eternal slumber," Leon tells him. "If you can't wake up from the morass, you'll be stuck in this mayhem forever, idiot knight." Holding his sword in his hands, the protagonist is perplexed as to why the queen asked him to kill them. Perhaps she is not a villain? That's when he demands the general tell the whole truth about what happened to the queen. She made a deal with a demon, the general answers him. In the past, the queen, along with her warriors, fought against demons, but lost. To the defeated, a certain cloaked demon entered the throne room and offered to make a pact. Learn the temptations and survive the collapse of the kingdom for 100 years, the demon said. If you don't wallow in this, I will spare your life and the lives of your people. The queen was already in the center of the ruins, and there was nothing left for her to do but agree, even if it meant falling into the demon's trap. 5 years later, the boundless pleasure and agony drove the most vicious of people insane. By day, the queen had to watch demons enslave her people, and by night, the unclean whispered to herself. The first few years were tolerable, but her adversary was the pleasure demon himself. His trap was insidious and skillful, and there was not a single loophole in the contract. Whoever chooses to commit suicide for the sake of annulling the treaty will become a spirit wandering the underworld. And the moment the treaty ends, all will become servants of corruption. The queen slowly lost her mind and watched her kingdom slowly crumble. And the seed of depravity embedded in the queen gradually seduced her. 50 years later, her faithful knight could not resist his desires and snuck into the queen's chambers. And then, General Ricardo Bantz made a decision. The living cannot resist temptation. So to continue to protect the queen, her knights chose death. That's why the queen's influence doesn't work on us. The general continued his story. We sealed the queen already 80 years ago. And all we had to do was put her to sleep for half a day. At that moment, Goddess Plu and Leon sensed an army of demons approaching the castle with Androgynous himself at the head. Soldiers of the lion-hearted king, rise, yelled the protagonist. When the king arrived at the battle site, he learned that the demons had already climbed over the walls. Commander De Sun put on his helmet and ordered the warriors to line up. His Majesty's orders are to maintain position and stop the enemies. If we survive, His Majesty will deal with the rest. The spinner Psycho also activated at 100%, and Leon released divine power from his heart and yelled, "Show yourself, stallion." Thousands of demons encircled Dissen's squad, but the warriors steadfastly hold their defenses. Meanwhile, Leon was also surrounded by hundreds of demons so that he could no longer be seen among them. "We're finished," thought De Sun. But immediately, a powerful blast of divine power threw all the demons away from the king. "For Leonard," yelled the protagonist. Pleasure demons are dangerous only by their numbers, but with the androgyne's buff to pleasure from pain, they were giving Leon trouble. And in this fight, Stallion was unable to survive the opponent's attack. And at the moment when Leon prepared to unleash all his forces, from the castle came an army of Death Knights, with General Ricardo at the head. Together with the protagonist, they exchanged meaningful glances. "You must be awake from your sleep," Leon said with a smile. "My loyalty to the Queen is still alive," the general pronounced, rushing over. "Alien King, we have already suffered unthinkable losses. However, if you can change the situation, we will put everything on the line. In that case, watch. I will fulfill your expectations." All the divine power accumulated by Leon began to be released, great god of fire and battle. The protagonist said, and along with the color of his aura, his appearance began to change as well. Answer. A powerful beam of red divine energy pierced through Leon. The soldiers heard the voice of God Pitos. "You have always sacrificed yourself. Without you, this fire will be indomitable. Then, I will always be on your side," smirked Leon, who now looked similar to the fire god, but with snow-white hair. In his new formidable image, the protagonist appeared before his enemies, greatly frightening them with his new power. "I am Lionheart," he yelled, "the best divine rider of war and flame, Pitos. Your riders have asked for fire and war, to punish the evil that has settled here. The power of his aura caused the demons to recoil backward. A chariot appeared in front of Leon, or already Pito's, with 2 golden and furious buffalo harnessed it. "Thank you, comrade," he said to the disappearing stallion, "now rest." Then he turned toward his enemies, drew his sword, and shouted, "All follow me. I will lead us to victory." After that, the protagonist rushed alone to the front lines, stomping the pitiful demons with his buffalo hooves. "What the fuck is this?" Androgynous roared. "Why can't we stop him even for a second?" The demons began to attack with magical projectiles. But they were all absorbed by the arrow's shield. And what's more, the defense now extended to the Death Knights as well. "In the name of the Lion's Heart," yelled Leon, raising the attack and invulnerability buffs of the entire army. At that moment, from above the protagonist, with shouts of, "Die motherfucker!" Androgynous himself pounced, but after the attack, only the buffalo remained in front of him, and Leon himself disappeared from his field of vision. And while the demon was thinking, Leon attacked him from above with his spear, depriving him of one of his limbs. The energy to maintain Petos's strength was only for 1 minute. "Then we need to finish this quickly. You, king with a lion's heart, the one who killed Dothraden," shouted the demon. "You mean that weakling? All your perverts I killed before I tore them to shreds. And soon you'll get to experience it for yourself too," yelled back Leon. Androgynous attacked first, hurling a dozen swords in his direction. In response, Leon swung, and with all his might hurled his spear at the demon, depriving it of another limb. And without giving the demon time to attack again, in a single leap he got close enough to destroy the demon with a single blow. Suddenly, Androgynous activated the crown on his head. It awakens primal and wild desires. No living thing will be able to resist it. But Leon didn't care. He slashed the demon with his sword. The androgyne, realizing that it was getting hot, was about to flee, but suddenly, from behind, one of the buffalo threw him up, and he fell to the ground with a thud. Leon came close and delivered a final, decisive blow to the demon. In its early days, the kingdom of Sparrow was prosperous, and its people enjoyed peace and abundance. It seemed as if it would last forever, but soon the demon invasion began. The wise queen knew that the souls of these inferior beings would one day take over her kingdom. At first, it was frequent victories that gave everyone hope. But it didn't last long that way. The queen realized that these creatures did not die even after death. This war was impossible to win from the start. No matter how many times they triumphed, the demons would return again. And when the kingdom was seriously weakened, a demon came to her and offered to make a deal. If they realize the essence of corruption and endure for 100 years, the invasion of this kingdom will stop, and everything will return to normal. So said the demon, and the desperate queen agreed to the deal without question, even knowing it was a trap. She decided it was the only way she could protect those she loved. And just like that, the kingdom of Sparrow began to drown in debauchery and pleasure. The bright citizens, the loyal knights, and their proud queen. All of them were quickly swallowed up by the darkness. In the end, her loyal knight couldn't handle the lust and broke into the queen's bedroom. And the general sealed his queen deep underground, and killed himself to become a death knight. Decades of emptiness and regret, and all the queen could dream of was for this nightmare to end soon. After defeating Androgynous, the crown and his weapons were left as loot. The swords were taken by Spinner Psycho, and the crown was taken by Plu, the goddess of dreams and death. In parting, she nudged Petros to say hello to Leon. "Well done," said the god of war and fire with embarrassment. Toward the end, Leon made a request to the gods that they take away the souls of the Death Knights. To which Pito countered that corrupted souls could not be taken to paradise. They had already fallen out of the cycle of life and death. Leon Lenhart, said the goddess of dreams, "Those who have evaded the judgment of death deserve to be punished." But then the queen, awakened from sleep and sorcery, intervened in the conversation. Please forgive them. Noble gods of another world, as an unworthy queen of a fallen state, I would like to ask you to reconsider your decision. Plu hesitated. Faithful knights of the queen, none of the pantheon will accept you in paradise. However, your good deeds outweigh the evil ones. Your loyalty has touched us, and yes, our lion-hearted king has asked to care for your souls. His approval is enough for me, she said with a smile. I will cleanse your souls, and give you a chance at life. And also, the goddess stepped toward the queen. I have a proposal, queen of the forgotten state. This is the only way the souls of your knights can rest in peace. Become my priestess, and help the lion-hearted king to spread the faith. Once the afterlife over which I rule is opened, your knights will have a chance to reincarnate. I will do whatever you wish, exclaimed the queen. After the battle, Gu Disan reported the casualties to the king. Most of the wounded were saved with the help of the Grail. But we lost 6. Leon approached the dead. Against the endless stream of demons, such losses were considered insignificant. Let us pray for them, the protagonist said, drawing his sword. He thrust it into the ground and took a knee. Great flame and war, your warriors have fallen a noble death. Please see their souls off. If they have sins, absolve them, and praise their deeds before they die. May they enjoy a feast among the gods. Gradually, the bodies were enveloped in divine fire. Leon ordered a list of the dead to be compiled and the families notified. The Pantheon will not forget this sacrifice. It's time to return, said the protagonist.